All right, this is volume. This is the last lesson we're covering for chapter 11. You have to memorize these formulas. I'm going to double check. Maybe I'll be giving them to you if they're on the SAT or ACT. Okay, hopefully they are. These are super easy when you're finding something. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started looking at the first one. You have a prism and a pyramid. We have to know the difference between prism and pyramid if we're looking at it. Prism, no matter which way you turn it, it always has a flat base. That's what a prism is. Pyramid, if I flip it upside down, there's no base, it's just going to fall right over. So when I'm looking at this, you need to understand the difference. Prism and pyramid have two different types of formulas. Okay, so when I'm looking at my rectangular prism or my cube, they're going to be using the same formula, okay? Notes on the side to the right. It says B stands for the base of the area. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that so you know what the base is. So base of the area is just the bottom piece. Base is like the floor that you stand on. That's my base. That's what my B stands for. For a rectangular base, change your B to, I normally say base times height, but because we're dealing with volume, it's length times width, okay? Length times width. So my capital B equals my length times my width, and then I have my height. So when I'm looking at this, I can do it in steps, or I could just plug all of it in together. So here is my height, and my height is my H. So solving it for this one, I'm plugging in what I have. My length times my width, I'm going to have 8 times 6 times my height, which is 7. You guys have your calculators. Please plug that in. And that's going to give you the answer for volume. What's 8 times 6 times 7? What did we get? Good, 336 feet cubed. Volume is a 3D image. It is cubed. All right, if we go back to the notes on the right, it says, for a square base, change B to, for a square, meaning all of them have the same side, it's side times side. Okay, side times side, and your H is for your height. Okay, so now looking at the next one, it says square pyramid or rectangular pyramid. When you're dealing with a pyramid, okay, if you don't know what a pyramid is, it has an apex at the top. Okay, when you're looking at pyramids, and if you're looking at this entire slide, you look, and there are two of them. Here's a pyramid, here's a cone, and they're both being divided by 3. So how I like to write this one is, I personally like to write it as BH over 3. Okay, so it's the exact same thing. I'm just writing it all over 3. So same thing as before. I have my base stands for area, my B stands for area of the base. So same thing, here is my base. And I'm going to write it, the capital B is length times width. And I'm going to go ahead and plug in what I have. What is my length and what is my width? Okay, 5 and 5, and that's the same thing as side and side because this is a square pyramid. So plugging in 5 times 5. And then what's my height?
6.
Okay, good. Your height must be perpendicular from the base. It has to be that straight line. So 5 times 5 times 6, and then I'm taking all of that and dividing it by 3. So plug it into your calculator. 5 times 5 times 6. And then divide it by 3. What would my answer be? Good, 50 centimeters cubed. Volume equals 50 centimeters cubed. Okay, that is the basics. All right, looking at the next one. What do we notice about cylinder? Looking at the formula, what have we used before? Good. Pi r squared. This is the area of a circle. So when I'm looking at it, the only difference between area of a circle and volume of a cylinder is now you're multiplying your height. So plugging in what I have, here is my radius, which is this piece right here. And then I have my height, which is right here. Plugging in, I'm going to have pi. What's my radius? 4, I'm squaring it. And then my height is 10. All you have to do is plug it into your calculator. Pi, please use the pi button. Again, it's in the first column, fourth button down. Pi times 4 squared times 10. What would your answer be? Round to the nearest hundredth. 502.65 inches cubed. All right, looking at my cone. Okay, it looks similar to my pyramid. Again, the only difference between cylinder and cone is I'm now dividing by 3. You guys have to be able to identify these. So I'm going to write it a little bit of a different way. I like to write it as pi r squared times your height divided by 3. It's the exact same thing. And remember, your height must be your perpendicular line from the base. So plugging in what I have, same thing as before. Here's my radius. Here is my height, which is at 90 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. I have pi times my radius, which is 2 squared, times my height, which is 5. Don't forget you're dividing everything by 3. Plug it into the calculator. Pi times 2 squared times 5. Taking that answer, dividing it by 3. Volume is going to equal what?
20.94 millimeters cubed.
Good. 20.94 millimeters cubed. All right, all it is you're just finding the information and plugging it in. Okay, yes, for now, memorize the formulas. They are not hard. And then that's it. You just got to plug in the numbers. Or you got to solve for what's missing. And we'll do some examples like that. All right, looking at the last one, sphere. That is a fully equidistant ball, round globe. Okay, how I like to write this one is 4 pi r cubed divided by 3. Okay, most important thing here, please do not forget this, is that your radius must be cubed, not squared. And I'm going to show you how to get that button on the calculator. Looking at it, what would my radius be? It would be my 6. Okay, that's my radius, no matter where it is in the circle. So what am I plugging in? I'm plugging in 4 on my calculator. Pi times radius cubed divided by 3. Everybody grab your calculator. If you don't have one, please look at someone else's. I understand that there is not a basic cube button on here. So if you look in the first column, underneath the pi button, do you see that little arrow facing up? That is the button for exponents. So what I'm plugging in is, it's in the first column. It's in the first column underneath the pi symbol. So the little arrow pointing up, it's by itself. I'm plugging in 4 pi 6, then push the up arrow 3. So the little up arrow is saying that that 3 is my exponent. I'm clicking enter, and then I'm dividing it by 3. Your answer, if you plugged it in correctly, if you push the correct button, is going to be 904.78 centimeters cubed. If you did not get that and you're not sure where the exponent button is, please raise your hands and I'll come and help you. We're good? Did we all find it? We all get the right answer? Yeah. Okay, what's up? So this is the exponent button. So I did 4 pi 6 to the power of 3. And then I did divided by 3. All right. This is not, it is a lot, but it's just a matter of plugging in. So a matter of knowing what is what. All right, we're going to go ahead and do these. They're similar, but again, it's more practice. So it's the same thing, a little more information. So looking at the next set of notes, we are back to rectangular prism. Rectangular prism is a 3D figure where all faces are squares or rectangles. Okay, so they're giving you the formula. Either you can use B times H, but don't forget that B is the same thing as saying length times width. Okay, so these are the same. I'll highlight them so you can see what's the same. Your B is the same thing as length times width. So looking at it, what am I plugging in? I'm just going to plug in everything that they're giving me. So I'm going to take my length times my width times my height. I'm going to plug that into my calculator, 9 times 5 times 6. And that's going to give me my volume, which is what? 270. Let's check it. 9 times 5 times 6. 270. Good. Inches cubed. Okay, now a cube. A special type of prism where all faces are squares. Okay, look at the formula for this. L stands for the length of any side. All I'm going to go ahead and do is take the length of the side. So this is L. You highlight it. My L is any side, so I'm just going to take this side. Why? Because they're all 7. So that little arrow button that we used, what am I pushing on the calculator? This is what it's going to look like when you're plugging it in. 7, up arrow, 3. Okay, once you do 7, exponent 3, you're going to get your answer for volume. What is my answer for volume?
343.
Good. Volume equals 343 feet cubed. Questions on rectangular prisms? All you're doing is plugging in. That's it. All right, pyramids. You're still using the same formula, except you're adding that divided by 3. Okay, so I'm going to write it how I like to write it. You could think of it as length times width times height divided by 3, or you could think of it as the area of your base divided by 3. It's the same thing. All right, with a rectangular square pyramid, a 3D figure with a rectangular or rectangle or square base and a triangular sides. The sides can come together at a point called the apex. Okay, so what is the apex? The apex is this point right here. I will highlight it. Apex is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. The height must be perpendicular. Has to be perpendicular. So what do I have? What am I plugging in? My length times my width. So just highlighting, just showing you this is considered my B. Okay, and then if you want to look at it, you have length times width times height. Has to be the perpendicular line. So plugging it in, I'm going to use the one that I highlighted in different colors. Again, your B is the same thing as LW. So writing it out, I'm going to have 7 times 8 times my height, which is 11. I'm going to take that and then I'm dividing everything by 3. Go ahead and plug that into your calculator. If you plugged it in correctly, what should your answer be? Rounding to the nearest hundredth. 205 point what? 33 or 34?
No, it's all 30s.
Okay, thank you. 33. Okay, so again, we're just a matter of plugging in. Questions on the first two? Okay, good. We're just finding information and plugging it in. All right, last two, volume of cylinders and cones and then spheres. So looking at my cylinder, please understand that the base of your cylinder, whenever you're using the pi r squared, your radius is always the circle part. Do not take the radius as your height. I'm going to explain that in one of the examples as we go on to the next slides. This is a 3D figure with two parallel circular bases. My bases are circles. Okay, my bases are my circles. If I were to put a can on the side, it's going to roll. Okay, your bases are the sides that stay flat. It's not going to move. So please understand that. So looking at this, we have used this before. This is the area of a circle. So plugging in what I have, what is my radius? Okay, good. My radius is 4. So I'm going to highlight it. Highlight my radius. And then my height is 10 meters. All right, plugging it in. I'm going to have pi times my radius, which we said was 4. I'm going to square it, and then I'm going to take my height, which is 10. I'm not dividing anything. There's no division, none of that. Make it a little thicker so you guys could see it. All right, plug it into your calculator. Pi times 4 squared times 10. If you plugged it in correctly, your volume is going to equal 502.65 meters cubed. All right, same thing between my prisms and my pyramids. Looking at this cone, same formula. I'm just dividing it by 3. Cone, a 3D figure with one circular base and a smooth circular body that comes together at a point called, this is still my apex. All right, so same thing as before. I'm just going to go ahead and write it. I like writing as pi r squared times my height divided by 3. And that's how I'm plugging in. I have my radius, which is 5. I have my height, which is h. And I'm going to go ahead and write it. I have pi times 5 squared times my height, which is 9, and I'm dividing everything by 3. So plugging it into your calculator, pi 5 squared times 9 divided by 3. Your answer for this volume is going to be 235.62 meters cubed. All right, so don't forget you are dividing by 3. Questions on cylinders and cones? All right, spheres is the last one. A sphere is a 3D figure that is perfectly circular. And every point is equidistant. What does that mean? Good. Equidistant from the center point. So this is the kind of, if you want to think of it as like your funky formula, because you're using the 4 and you're cubing it, not squaring it. So I'm going to rewrite it to how I like to write it. 4 pi r cubed divided by 3. And then a hemisphere, you guys should know that word from history, is half a sphere. So when you're looking at it, how am I writing my hemisphere? Instead of writing it as 4 pi r cubed, I'm writing it as 2 pi r cubed, still dividing it by 3. So I'm really taking this one and rewriting it. So finding what we have, I have my radius, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm plugging it in. I have 4 pi 3 cubed, this is when we're going to use our arrow, divided by 3. So on your calculator, 4 pi 3, using the exponent button, we're cubing it, and then after I do that, I'm dividing my answer by 3. So your answer for this one, volume equals 113.1. Because that 9's going to round, and it's just going to be 1. All right, looking at the hemisphere. Same thing, except I'm multiplying times 2, not 4. I'm figuring out half of it. Half of 4 is 2. That's why we're using the 2. So plugging in, same thing as we did before, plugging in what we have. I have 2 pi, my radius cubed, divided by 3. Divided by 3. Answer for this is going to be volume equals 16.76 feet cubed. Questions on these? All right, it is a lot of formulas, yes, but once you figure out and find the pattern between these, you're able to just plug in the information. So go ahead and go to the next slide, and we're going to do some examples. I am going to do the odds. You guys are going to go ahead and do the evens. All right, so looking at number 1, it says find the volume. So I'm looking at it. This is a rectangular prism, not a pyramid. And knowing my formula, it's volume equals length times width times height. All I'm doing is plugging in what they're giving me. 8 times 2 times 2. On my calculator, plugging it in. Volume equals, good, 32 feet cubed. Not hard. All right, looking at number 3, it says the volume of a rectangular prism is 300 inches cubed. The length is 10 inches, and the width is 4. What is the height? So I know my formula. Volume equals length times width times height. I'm going to rewrite it just to get used to it. They're giving me important information. They're giving me my volume. They're giving me my length and my width. All I'm going to do is plug it in. So plugging in that information to what was given, what I have right now is volume, which is 300, equals my length, which is 10, my width, which is 4, and I'm trying to solve for x. So taking it in steps. What do I do first? Combine like terms. So I still have 300 equals 40x. Now what am I going to do? Good, divide both sides by 40. Because they both end in a 0, I'm just going to go ahead and cancel those zeros out. And then what's 30 divided by 4?
7.5.
Good, 7.5 inches. I don't have to cube it because I'm just finding a piece of it. I'm finding my height. Nothing too difficult. Once you know your formulas, plug it in and work backwards if you have to. All right, looking at the next one. Now we're dealing with a rectangular pyramid. What's the difference between the formula for a prism and a pyramid? Can anybody tell me?
That's divided by 3.
Good. It's the exact same formula. All I'm doing is dividing by 3. So I have volume equals length times width times height divided by 3. Plugging in what I have. They're giving me my length, they're giving me my width, and they're giving me my perpendicular height. So plugging in, I have 7 times 6 times 5. Everything divided by 3. And if it was plugged in correctly, it should be 70 feet cubed. All right, looking at the next one. The bottom of the pyramid has the area of 36. If you're not sure what it's asking, please draw it as best as you can. I know this is not a perfect pyramid, but at least I can kind of write in what they're giving me. Okay, the bottom of the pyramid, they're giving me is 36 yards. And the height of my pyramid is 14. It says find the volume. So remember, length times width is the same thing as your base. So my formula could be written as the one like I wrote for number 1, but it could also be written as volume equals base times height divided by 3. And they're giving me the base. Okay, what is that base that they're giving me? Good, the bottom of the pyramid. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in. I have 36 times my height, which is 14. And then all I'm doing is dividing it by 3. So plug it into your calculator, 36 times 14. Divide it by 3 and you should get your answer. Volume equals, good, 168 yards cubed. Questions on the first 4 examples that I solved? You guys will get a calculator, so all you're really doing right now is plugging in. All right, last 4 examples. I'll go back if you guys need it. Find the volume. This is what I'm talking about. My base is the circular bottoms, not the side. So volume for this one, formula for volume, was volume equals pi r squared times your height. Please do not put your height as 6. That is not your height. What is my radius here?
3.
It's 3. Good. It is 3. I'm taking half of it. So cutting in half, 3 and 3. That is my radius. And then what's my height? Good. It is your 8, not your 6. Please don't get that confused. So now plugging in, I'm going to take pi times my radius squared times my height, which is 8. All you have to do is plug it into your calculator. Volume equals 226.2 inches cubed. All right, keyword for number 3 is what? It says the volume of a cone is 200 cubic inches. If the radius is 10 inches, what is the height? What shape am I working with? A cone. What's going to change for my formula for a cone? Good. I'm dividing it by 3. Okay, if you don't know what a cone looks like, think of an ice cream cone that's upside down. It has your apex, so you are dividing it by 3. So formula for this, I'm still going to use the same one as before for number 1, but now I'm just dividing it by 3. Volume equals pi r squared times your height. divided by 3 because it's a cone. So, writing in what they gave me. What did they give me? They're giving me my volume. So I have 200 equals, what's my radius? They're giving me my radius. Don't forget you need your pi. My radius is 10. I'm squaring it. I'm looking for my height. And I'm dividing everything by 3. So looking at this question, first step is what? How am I solving for x? What do I have to do first? Good, I'm going to multiply by 3 on both sides. Good. I'm going to get 600 equals pi times 10 squared x. Now what do I do?
Divide both sides by pi.
Okay, divide both sides by pi. All right, this is going to give you a decimal. Rounding to the nearest hundredths. I'm going to get 190.99 equals, I'm going to change my 10 squared. What's 10 squared?
100.
Good, I'm changing it to 100x. Now what do I do? Divide by 100. And my answer for x is 1.9, which is my height. So I'm going to write it as height. All right, Ms. Chung, is there one way that we can just plug it into the calculator? Yes, there is, but you have to make sure you're using parentheses. If you wanted to skip this little step right here and just solve it once instead of dividing, please pay attention to how I'm writing it, because if you are not using parentheses, I want you guys to try it on your calculators. It's going to give you a completely different answer. So how I would plug this into the calculator is 600 divided by, in parentheses, pi times 100. Plug it into the calculator, and you're going to see from plugging this in, it's going to jump you to your answer. But then try plugging it in without the parentheses. It's going to give you a different answer. So please understand the importance, if you are plugging this in, on using your parentheses. Okay, you have to use parentheses if you want to just plug it in once. If you do not use parentheses, you're going to get your decimals off. So either you can use your calculator if you feel comfortable, or go ahead and divide it out. Okay, did everybody at least try it and see it? Okay, we can go back if you have to go over that one. All right, volume of a sphere. It says find the volume of the sphere. So this is your funky formula. You have that 4 and you are cubing it, not squaring it. I'm going to have volume equals 4 pi r cubed divided by 3. That's formula for a sphere. So I'm going to solve that first. And then how do I solve for my hemisphere? All you have to do is take that answer and divide it by 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve for sphere first. Plugging in what I have, my radius is going to be 8. So right now I'm going to have 4 pi, my radius cubed, and we're going to be using that little arrow, divided by 3. If you use the arrow correctly, if you plugged it in correctly, you're going to have a large number, 2,144.66 meters cubed. And this is for volume of a sphere. Now, all I have to do is take that number, divide it by 2 for my hemisphere. If you divide it correctly, what should your answer have been?
1,072.33.
Good. Okay, so they asked for 2 answers. So I gave both volume of a sphere and volume of a hemisphere. All right, last question. If the radius of a tennis ball is 1.7 inches, what is the volume? So here's my tennis ball. My radius is 1.7, and I'm using the formula for volume of a sphere. A tennis ball is a round sphere, which is volume equals 4 pi r cubed divided by 3. 4 pi times my radius, which is 1.7. I'm cubing it and then dividing by 3. Plug it into your calculator. Volume's going to equal 20.58 inches cubed. All right, go ahead and work on the even questions, please. Any questions on this last slide? Questions, comments, concerns? All right, please study this. Go ahead and do the evens.